Hey there! For today's video we're going to talk about, you guessed it, charcoal. So in the background you will see me doing a piece in charcoal because I felt like doing a piece in charcoal. I haven't done one in some time. But I ended up adding a bit of pastel to add some color and also a bit of acrylic at the end because I wasn't convinced about using it alone. But yeah, I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk a bit about the basics of charcoal. I'm not an expert on charcoal, but we've used it a couple of times in class and they teach us the basics. So I thought it would be good for me to teach them to other people. So let's start with the basics. Uses a pencil for the sketch. And why am I saying this? It's mainly because you can't really erase charcoal, so if you're not very used to use it, your lines won't be as light as you want, so you won't be able to erase them. So it's better to start with a very light pencil sketch at first. And why am I saying that you can't erase charcoal? Well, once you put a mark on paper, charcoal can't be erased. If it's a very light line, then you can use cotton cloth and shake it over the bits you want to erase and it will disappear. But if you have painted quite strongly and you've made a very dark mark, then that bit won't disappear completely. It will disappear a bit, but not completely. So bear that in mind, and I recommend to use this a pencil sketch first because of that. So yeah, you can't use an eraser with charcoal because it doesn't work. Take that in mind. And for erasing, just shake a piece of cloth in the place you want to do it, carefully obviously because it's very uncontrollable. And yeah, for blending, again, don't use your fingers because I know they always say this, you leave your grease and things from your skin in the paper and then you can't use it properly, but in charcoal this applies much more than in any other pencils. You can see that after blending with your finger the paper will become very weird in this place if you apply charcoal after. And also blending stumps aren't that good for that either, so I will recommend again to just grab a cotton cloth. It can be from a t-shirt, it can be like an old t-shirt or anything. They're not very expensive if you look for them, but just an old t-shirt can work. And you can use it for blending and you can also use it for shaking off the bits that you don't want. And I'm saying shaking off because you can't really erase again. So yeah. And then just bear in mind that charcoal is very hard to keep, because you will lose bits of charcoal. And well, two things that you can do to avoid this, or at least avoid it a bit, will be using fixative. But first, rule with fixative is try it out in a bit of paper first, not directly in your piece, because sometimes the fixative can change the color of your charcoal and then you might want to add another layer, or it might make it too dark. So you have to bear that in mind and before you spray the real piece. So yeah, if you want to use fixative, you will see me using it in the video and it darkens the bits and you can't really change that bit anymore because it's fixed. So bear that in mind again. You can use that to apply layers, but you can't really fix what's been under the fixative, so take that into account. And for keeping your piece, I will recommend keeping it with a piece of paper on top of your piece, so you won't get everything dirty and you won't get your picture blurred and get off your charcoal. And for this, the piece of paper that will be most used will be onion skin. I believe it's called like that. It's kind of like a tracing paper, very thin, and that's very cheap too. So you can't really put your charcoal up with another piece of paper of another piece or something, because it will blend your drawing and it will get it dirty and smudged. and it will get off most of your charcoal, so you won't have the piece when you go back to check on it. And yeah, it's this is basic. I mean, you just need to know that you can't erase, that you can't use your fingers, that a cotton cloth is the basic thing you can use. And also I will add that using pastels, you can apply the same rules because they work very similarly, at least the ones that are not oily, I believe. I've only tried once. And just a thing that if you might don't know, pastels can be solid in water, so you can use them as kind of a watercolor technique. And another thing is that you don't really need a high variety of thickness and thinness, thick bars or thin bars of charcoal. You can do a full drawing with just a thin one and a thick one. A thick one will be good to apply large spaces, like large black, dark spaces, and then the thin one will be good for details. And well, you can add more if you want to, but I'm just saying that with two will be enough, so you don't need to spend too much to try it. So yeah, and for the last thing I will add, if you want to do some details after the charcoal, there's some pencils that have charcoal instead of the usual graphite, so you can use that for detailing, like eyes or things like are very detailed and you can't really do it with a bar of charcoal. But bear in mind that usually those bars are completely not erasable, or not even with a cotton cloth. So yeah, just bear that in mind. And this is all I have for you today. I hope this was useful. As I said, it was very basic things, so you probably, if you've worked with charcoal before, you might know some of this. And yeah, hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next Friday. Bye!